Hello, everybody. Just give folks a minute to come on in here. I've got some Japanese gouache paints, gandai, tambi, and apologies to anybody who's a native Japanese speaker on my pronunciation. My understanding is the translation is beautiful paint, and it is indeed beautiful. Got a lot of colors here. I've had a community post up soliciting for some ideas about 3 colors, and had some suggestions. I've got the pans out ready to go. I'm just adding some water to the pans. We'll get the paint going with a little bit of filtered water there. I've prepared some squares of watercolor paper, and I'm gonna start with some choices that I picked out, and with any luck, maybe some of the people who made some choices will show up and they'll get to see their colors being used for these backgrounds. I really enjoy using these gouache paints. They're creamy and very pigmented, and the color selection is just lovely. Nice bright colors, lots of pigment in the paint. Gail Byron! Oh my goodness. Well, if you have do you have a couple of minutes? Because I have your colors right here. And I'll throw on a layer. I love that pale ultramarine that you chose. That's one of my favorites in this group. I'm so glad to see you. Okay. Thank you. I was so excited you showed up. I thought, oh, I've been trying to go live for the last 4 or 5 days, and something else has come up, which I'm happy to do, but I thought, oh, am I gonna get over to get this done? And so I'm just tickled that you're here. Yeah, isn't this pale ultramarine beautiful? I really just, it's one of my favorite colors. I think I had pants that were this color in about the early to mid 1980s, and it just takes me back. I had a pair of, remember those Sperry topsider shoes? They had a preppy moment back in the 80s, and I had a pair of those that were this color on top and then with the white sole. And I wore those things. I wore those out. Took them to the cobbler, had new soles put on them, and now I'm like, was I really wearing blue shoes? Yup. Yes, Gail. I think that'll be, yeah, we can always kind kind of love to do a side by side over it. We can cheat it and go over on Eric's channel with that too. I've got a couple of people who are trying to talk me into getting StreamYard, and I'm still kind of hanging out and trying to figure out everything that YouTube can do. Something about it just reminds me of the blue that Michelangelo used on the Sistine Chapel, right? Isn't that gorgeous? Alrighty, shall we be patient? No, let's rush it. I want to see what happens with that lemon yellow on top of it. Because I'm wondering if we'll get some greens. Yeah, do you use any of the restreaming services, Gail, or just YouTube? I know with YouTube it gives me an option to bring a person up, and what I'm not clear on is if I can go send a link via email while I'm, sometimes it's hard to do one thing at a time. All right, here's that beautiful lemon yellow that you picked out, Gail. Ooh! Oh, sorry, that was kind of loud. Wow, I like that. Oh, it's delicious. What a wonderful yellow. Yeah, I'm not a super big fan of the cadmium colors. I think they can be a little bit flat, but boy, this lemon yellow just sings. It doesn't seem to want to make... That's the nice thing about this paint is it goes down, and once it dries, it doesn't pick up and mix the way traditional watercolors do. Ooh, that's cheery. Wait, I think I got the lemon yellow. Yep. Okay. Just YouTube. Yeah, me too. Yeah, Maya and Brad, they like to use... Oh, boy, don't you hate it when your favorite brush starts to shed hairs? It's never a good sign. They use, I think they both are using the same platform. I did notice some people using Restream, and I thought that the picture quality was pretty pretty crisp, and the color replication was better than some of the YouTube streams. And I think there's a little bit more functionality in that, but I'm old. I was take it a step at a time, you know. I'm so eager to use this paint. I just want to splash this all over. But I need to leave a little room for that beautiful rose madder that you chose, because it's gorgeous too. Hi there, folks. Welcome in. See a few more people coming in. I've been working in grays and ochres and burnt sienna and a lot of earthy tones, which are okay, but I like to switch it up and get to the bright colors. Back to those again, because they're so uplifting. Yeah. How do we want to put this rose madder in here? Do we just want to... I think I'll just drip some in and see what it does when it hits that yellow while it's still wet. The fun thing about these, no rules. And one thing I know about this color, it goes big. such a clear, beautiful pink. It almost reminds me of neon pink. It's a very cheery combo you picked, Gail. I like this. That's what I'm hoping for. I think I will also drop some more water down on here just to encourage the colors to interact with each other. I switched to a bigger, I've got a 5.5-inch square here. I thought it might be more fun than, I think we've kind of outgrown those 3-inch squares a little bit, so. I thought for this we'd just break out a little more paper and I don't know, I'm gonna maybe just try the eyedropper, just really go for it. We got paint splashing off the page, so that must be a good sign. Ooh, look at it go. Oh, it's really, look how it's turning to this, not quite a burnt orange, but it's a beautiful, beautiful interaction down here. Goldie, hello. Good to see you. Welcome in. How's it going? We are, right at the moment, we are literally watching some paint dry. So, we've got some of the choices up. We've been talking about the pick 3. And, you know, I was going to blot that off of there, and I think what I'll do is just sneak it onto another piece of paper. Because it's such a lovely color here. Ooh. So I think I just said 3 sentences, at least the first halves of them, and let me gather my thoughts a little bit here. We had been talking about the pick 3, and in one of my community posts, I had left room for comments, and a couple of viewers had suggested some colors for pick 3, which is just where you guys get to choose some things. I go to the paint box, pull them out, and then we put them on paper and see what happens. And that's what we're up to. Yeah, look at that orange that we're getting from lemon yellow and rose madder. It's almost this apricot color. I like it. I am doing well. Thank you for asking. So, what I usually like to do with these backgrounds is get some paint on and then I let them dry. I come back, I do another layer. Usually, you always at least 3 and usually closer to 5 or 6 layers. So, this will just be step 1. Ooh, skin tones. Do you paint people? Oh, you did. You did a self-portrait that you sent to Eric, right? So you're brave and you tackle. I haven't done portraits or people since I was in school in painting and drawing classes where it's part of the assignment. Um, don't you find that artists, there are people who have a knack for portraits and they kind of fall into it, and then the rest of us just really have to kind of struggle to get the knack of it? Which I know with anything, if you practice enough and you struggle through it, you can get some facility with it. But um, I think I really didn't have any. I think one of the things that helps is if you've got subjects who are willing to sit for you. And I had friends who would be willing to sit for photographs, but not for portraits, for painting. It's kind of modeling for painting takes a bit of a quiet temperament, someone who's willing to sit still for you. So I'm really good at rocks, though. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right about that color. It's 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 lively. Sometimes I think with portraits, like I tend to go a little too green, and I would get done with them and just go, well, that's a cubist portrait, or the colors are just they're not very yeah. I haven't practiced enough to have a knack for it. If if one can practice into a you can practice into a skill. I don't know. I think a knack is something that you're just naturally have. I'm rambling a bit. Some days you get ramble. That's just how I am. So remind me, Gail, what time zone are you in if you don't mind sharing? Work from photos. I think I might enjoy painting pictures of people I didn't know. Because when you know them and then you show them the painting and then the likeness is just a little off. I'm kind of like I'm sensitive. I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. But I dated a fella a couple of years ago who liked to do these drawings that were, he called them continuous line drawings. And he would put oh, 4 a.m. Okay. He would put the pencil on the paper and then look up at what he was drawing, and then he would just try to draw it on the paper without, like he would put something to block his vision. And he would do these drawings of me where my eyeballs would be up here and my nose would be here and then my mouth would, like they were really distorted. And it just like I'd look at them and be kind of shocked. And I loved his drawings when he did cars and trains and things like that, but when he drew people, it just wasn't to my taste, I guess. I was like, I kept telling him, would you please not draw me? Just, anyway. And he'd always draw me like really short and wide, and I'm like, I'm a tall person. Yeah, I would, yeah, and I would say, do you think you could maybe glance down at the paper a time or two? And no, no, I have to do it blind. Okay, but he was a fellow who had a hard time seeing me anyway, so uh, it was just emblematic of some of the bigger problems. What are you gonna do? Alrighty, I think I've harvested a bit of those drips out of there and turned it into some small pieces. I'm going to set this one aside. I'm going to move on to um, uh, three of the colors that I picked out. I picked out malachite, which I have on. And are you up late, Gail, or just got up to do the thing? I'm old. I have to get up and pee a couple times a night. You're not up early. It's really early for being up. Here I am, nosy with the questions. So I got cobalt green in this new set that I just got last week, and I thought it was really a gorgeous color. So I've got malachite and cobalt green, which looks pretty dark in the pan, but I think it's going to surprise us. Indian red, and then I just kept looking back at indigo. So I usually put the dark color on last, so we'll save that. But I'm going to bring in this second green here. Ooh. That's gorgeous. I just want to put it in the middle. I was resisting the urge for about 20 seconds, and then it's like, nope. I'm just going to flop it right in the middle. Wow. That's that's it's pretty opaque, but it's really gorgeous. All right, Gail, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate your time, and I hope that was fun. When that dries down, if I don't put my fingertips in it, I'll try to throw it up on the community page, and then we'll put another layer on it. So, those were great choices. Thanks for your suggestions. Rest well. Oh my goodness, this dilutes beautifully. Just puddles up and soaks into the holes in this. Well, they're not holes, they're depressions in this watercolor paper. Yeah, Goldie, you should put a couple of suggestions, or even you don't have to pick out three. You could just pick out any one color that you like, and I'll match up a couple of others that go with it, and we will play and see what we come up with. I just love so many different colors. I used to not be much of a fan of earth colors, but the more I paint, the more I appreciate them. There's a subtlety to them that this is really nice to work with. Okay, I don't have quinacridone rose. I've got rose madder deep that's a little bit kind of in the neighborhood. I do have Prussian blue and I do have Gamboge. Yeah, what do you think would be close to quinacridone rose? Cause it's a very vibrant blue rose, right? Permanent rose. Okay, permanent rose. I think I've got that. Let's see. Permanent rose. Ding ding. Gamboge. That's a great yellow choice. I like that a lot. And watch Prussian blue is the very last one I pick up. Oh, no, I got it in the palette. All right. $75 tubes of paint later. Those two greens are really close. All right. Thanks for your patience. I think I got it. Ooh, you know you're having fun when there's a mess on the palette. All right. Permanent Rose by Winsor Newton. There we have it. Got such a mess going here. Make a little room for my palette. All right, shall we start with the gamboge? Apparently, we are at the make random noises portion of the program. Sorry for that. So this is a Grumbacher uh, Gamboge pigment yellow one and pigment orange one, and it's a kind of it's a warm intense yellow. It's one of my it's a very vibrant, powerful, sunny yellow, very warm. We used a lemon yellow in the first piece, but I think this is going to be fantastic with the Prussian blue. The Prussian blue is almost a turquoisey blue. I think it's one that has. This is so beautiful. I want to put it everywhere, but leave a little room for the other colors. So I'll just put those extra drops here and there. I'm going to rush this a little bit. I want to see how the Prussian blue interacts with this yellow. Oh, immediately gives us some lovely greens right in here. Now, usually, I like to use the darker colors last on these, but we're just playing. We're just looking to see what happens if we take any three. Yeah, that makes a beautiful kind of a sea glass green color. I'm chasing those greens, and I'm losing the pure Prussian blue areas, but it's really beautiful though. All right. Let's mess up some more paper, shall we? With a beautiful painty mess. Hmm. Wow, I don't think I've ever mixed Gamboge and Prussian blue together. It's just not something I'd gone to before, but it's absolutely beautiful. Hi, Randy. Randy Rabbit, welcome in. How are you? It's good to see you here. Really? Really? You know, this is so odd. My screen is showing that there's one person in here, but there's two of you talking to me, so. Uh, boy, YouTube is not being accurate. That's a surprise. It's not a surprise. So, yeah, um, what do you use it to, yeah, tell me more, Goldie. Goldie says Gamboge is one of my favorites for mixing. For making greens, oranges, or just for dulling down purples, or all of it, or... I was cleaning out my paint box and came across just one old tube of Gamboge, and I thought, oh, I've heard that color, but I've not really worked with it. And the old tubes were, some of the paints were dried out and just wrecked, so I took a lot of them out and then put them into these little containers. Um, I'm much more liable to use a color that I can see, and I really prefer my watercolors in semi-moist form. So the tubes had just been sitting for ages, and I thought maybe if I put them where I can see them, I would get into them more. And the label on the Gamboge had really faded, and when I got it out of the tube, I was really surprised because it resembles like a cadmium yellow deep. But then when I did the test swatches, I could see that it had a lot of it was luminous, and it makes these beautiful washes that cadmium yellows tend to, no matter how much you dilute them, they stay full strength. They've got a lot of tinting strength in a cadmium yellow. So I kind of fell in love with it. Well, okay. Greens. I'm going to explore the heck out of that because I am pretty delighted with what I'm seeing here. Okay, it re-wets nicely too. We'll see what kind of if it leaves me harsh lines or if it, because it seems to re-wet and then looks like there's a lot of pigment in the water. Well, thank you so much for that suggestion. I'm kind of delighted here, and that's the magic of playing with the paint, is that there are surprises and delights for the eyes. Ugh. Well, brushes have a limited lifespan, and once the glue starts to go, You really can't do much about it. And you can tell when your brush is starting to go because it begins to shed hairs. This one I've had, look at how old-fashioned that handle is. I've had it for years. It's been it's been letting go of one little hair at a time. I'm kind of one of those people. I don't give up on the brush until it's just leaving more hair than paint in the painting. And then I trim them off and I put them in to use them for glue. Just I'm thrifty to a fault, I think. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm just delighted with that. Well, the weather out here in Oregon has turned a bit cool at night, so I'm noticing, certainly compared to August, in August, everything dried down so quickly I didn't even have to dip into my patience at all because the layers would dry and I could just move right on. But we've still got a lot of wet pools on this one, so I'm going to shift it out and grab another piece of paper, and we'll come back to it and add that permanent rose and see what happens on that. When I've got all three primaries, yellow, blue, and red, and you throw them all on the same piece of paper, you end up with kind of a brown uh, a brown thing happening. So if I let the layers dry and then come in, and I might mix a little Prussian blue in with the permanent rose on the palette before I put it on the paper, so we can get some of those. See what kind of purples we can get to. I'm going to switch brushes out here and go with a calligraphy brush, and I'm going to move into this Indian red. So I thought it might play nicely with these cobalt green and malachite are the colors that are on this one. Oh, those colors are really kind of cool. Almost reminds me of a slice of a beautiful piece of malachite rock. The way the water caused that darker cobalt green to just bloom in these wonderful shapes. So, in terms of background painting, I really like to try to preserve anything that's interesting looking. But if there's an area that's just a little bit nothing going on, that's where I try to come in with the next color. And it's a little bit tricky because the eye wants to go to the places that are interesting, and the brush will follow the eye. So I do have to ask my mind to come into this quietly and go into the places I intend to go. I've approached these a lot of different ways. Sometimes I just let my hand go where my eye sends it. But I will say that I do like the effect better, the final result better, when I slow down. Wow. So when I'm looking at this color in the pan, it looks quite earthy and quite brown. Red and green are complements on the color wheel, and there's a lot of energy between red and green. And I was I wondered if this color would look drab, and it actually is really energized by these greens. I like it. I chose malachite, cobalt green, Indian red, and then because these are two that are really kind of, I thought, well, that's really one color. It's a couple versions. And so for my dark, I've chosen indigo, which that's going to look black, but let me just put a little bit on paper and we can see. I thought the indigo would play nicely with these guys. Hmm? Mm. Hmm. Yeah, the malachite is in the 36 color set of Kuretake Gansai Tambi, which just sounded like gibberish, but I'll show you that set in a minute here. I'm going to stick with this. And what I did for these color choices, I just want to, I chose one out of each set that I managed to accumulate 3 different sets of the Japanese gouache. All right. Maybe a little in here. I have a lot of fun with this calligraphy brush. It just makes such an interesting line. I can smush it down and get these beautiful, voluptuous, fat areas, and then the tip just tapers beautifully to make these fine little lines. Just had such a delightful time painting with it. Alrighty. I think I've showed these guys before, but they're fairly reasonably priced, and then sets of these pans of gouache is, I don't really use it as gouache, so I really, but it's fairly opaque as I want it, and I'm not painting things that really require a lot of opacity, but I think their opacity is pretty good, and I've had this set for about 3 years and been into it, and it just seems like I mix up a ton of paint, and then it dries down, and I look at it, and I go, well, I didn't use much at all. It just is, there's a lot of paint in these pans. And so this is one set. I think this is like a springtime set. I don't quite, I don't think it really kept the instruction or the information that came with it. I just saw it and thought, oh, I'll give these a try. And I started with this little set. It was just, it almost to me looked like it was like for children. And then after I used it, I was just, I really enjoyed working with it. So the next time I went to the art store, I picked up a bigger set. And this is the set that, yeah, so anyway, so I have 3 different sets. So I looked at the sets and just went, okay, I'll take one out of here, one out of here. So this is the set that's got malachite in it, and it's swatched right here. And here's the indigo. And, well, that wasn't helpful. Just about tossed you guys on the floor. Sorry about that. Yeah, so lots of a great assortment of these greens in this set. This is probably their all-around set. Now, if you go from this is the 36. If you go up to the 48 is these colors and the ones I just showed you. And then they've got a big set that includes everything. I recently picked up the Art Nouveau colors set. That was the one that we swatched out last week. And it includes just some beautiful, what I would describe as tertiary colors. This Mars yellow is just fantastic. This one at the bottom. Handful of pinky, purple, and I do love some yellowy browns. And this vermilion is just spot on with my Winsor Newton vermilion. Just a gorgeous color there too. So yeah, if you can find these. I found this last set on Dick Blick Artist Materials, and it was about half of list price. So if you check the online discount art supply, guys, I think there's about 3 of them that do really, yeah. Yeah, okay, so Blick had it for like $23 and change, so it was, and its list price is $48 for 24 pans? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 24 pans. And I'm just having so much fun with them. So if you you can use them kind of the full strength out of the pan like I'm using them, and they've got a nice opacity to them. They're still really creamy, and when they dry, there's a sheen to them. The binders are a bit different than the gum arabic that's used in watercolor paint, so it dries with this kind of shiny finish that is lovely. And if you dilute them, they work like watercolors, and very well, not just like sometimes paint, like I've noticed acrylic, if you try to use it in washes like watercolor, it just doesn't perform very well. I think these perform very well as watercolor in a wash kind of an application. God, it's still wet. Well, this is starting to dry down with some really cool figures that are appearing in the paint. Look at this. Look at all these 3 colors working together in here. Isn't that fun? So this was Gail Byron's choice. She chose pale ultramarine, rose madder, and lemon yellow. So that's starting to dry down. Alrighty, I think we can come in with some permanent rose on this bad boy. I'm having fun. Thanks, you guys, for the suggestions. Um, you know I'm having fun when I'm sticking my elbows in the paint and there's just stuff all over the workbench. All right, I had a bit of paint over here on the palette, a little off screen. But trust me, it's here. Let's use the fun brush for this, shall we? I think I read that the quinacridone colors were going to be discontinued because the ingredients to make them were no longer being produced. So, oh, okay. Wow. Can you guys see that? Ooh. Holy cats. I thought I liked the rose madder. This is gorgeous. Holy moly. Oh yeah, I think this thing's about to get completely pink because I'm loving this color. The quinacridone colors I do in my acrylics. I love the... So, if they're colors you love, you should take a look at your local art stores and buy a tube or two because they're going to go the way of manganese blue. Oh, is that a sad face about the news about quinacridones? Is that what I'm seeing there? Yeah. Yeah. Like I wonder what'll be next though too. You know, it's okay, getting too fussy. Yeah. That right there, that's what happens when the brain engages and I get out of the flow. Is I'm I'm not here at the paper and the brush. I'm off at the factory in China where they're not making the quinacridone that goes into the pigment that goes into so many paints that we just have come to love. And so, anyway, I'm try to get my mind back in. And we like what happens when we're mindful. It's just better. Things are just easier and have more flow. I might have to get more paint out. Or not. I kind of like that wash effect too. Yeah, I remember when quinacridones were first introduced, the golden line had a quinacridone gold, and the art shop kept it locked up. Like all of the other uh, fluid acrylics were available, but you had to go to the desk to get the new paint, and it was pretty expensive. But it was, and I think my first reaction was, "Oh, what's that all about? Oh, please, how good can it be?" And then I came into the art store on a demonstration day, and they were painting with it, and it was just mesmerizing. It wasn't like anything else I'd ever seen. And I, like, these new colors come out and you look at them and you think, how did we not have that before? How is that just now new? Because it's, in some ways, like, it's novel, but it's also familiar. I'm just kind of a color nerd. Hmm. I think I have a plan, which is I'm going to let this dry and then I'm going to spray the snot out of it with clear water and I'm going to let it just bleed and blend. And then I'm going to let it dry and then come back in and maybe add some more of the, maybe all of each of these colors. They're all beautiful, just beautiful together. It looks like it's a mess right now, but wait until we get it all the layers put onto it. I think it's going to be fantastic. Good choices. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of fun there. I don't want to waste a drop of that permanent rose. Sneak what's left onto one of these little pieces. So, Goldie, what sorts of things do you like to paint? Landscapes, portraits, turtles? I think I recall you saying you maybe some anime? Was that my brain playing tricks on me? It's interesting. As it dries down, it's quite a bit darker. Florals, landscapes, cartoons of dachshunds and chickens, but not anime. Okay. Florals, I love that. Did you know I was a florist for many years? I started working in flower shops when I was a senior in high school. And my mom had worked for a company in town, and then eventually the owner retired and she bought one of the locations of the flower shop, so that became our family business. And eventually I would go to school, or I went to school to become a lawyer, and then that really, I failed to consider that if you were a lawyer, you would spend all day working with lawyers, and it turns out they're not that much fun. And so I went to work in the family business. There was some other stuff in between there, but in transitioning back, yeah. Oh, yeah. And if you get a phone call, like it's either another lawyer or it's your client who is a person who couldn't figure out how to stay out of trouble, so that's not really that much fun. And if you get to leave the office, it's during daylight, it's only to go to the court where you're in front of a lawyer in a black robe who tells you what to do and you have to do it. It's so not fun. It's really not fun. And it turns out I could make more money in the family business, so I went and did that. And then eventually I had my own flower shop. So, yeah, spent a lot of time looking at flowers. And I like to paint cartoon flowers, not. I have a couple things here that I'm kind of. I have a bunch in my art journal, but I like to do just these little sketches. And every once in a while I'll tackle a botanical thing so these kind of splotchy ones, and I will turn these into cartoons of flowers. But I haven't tackled botanical type realistic flowers yet. Thank you. Thank you. Do you like to do the style where it really looks very realistic, or what's your approach with those? Okay, I'm going to set this out. Hi, kitty. Hi, are you helping? My cat just came up to offer some cat help. And as we know, cat help is it's not that helpful. Thank you. Can you get down? Thank you, buddy. Loose floral's nice. Yeah, I started to do some sketches and I was really surprised at how much I've got in my head. Like I can work on things from what's in my head, flowers, because I just spent so much time looking at the darn things. So I keep thinking I want to paint some flowers, but I've kind of been busy with this stuff, so it's okay. I can get there. And dachshunds. So if you're anywhere near Oregon, there's an annual festival over in Seaside, Oregon, and I'm not sure exactly what the name is, but everybody takes their dachshunds. It's a dachshund festival. So there's hundreds of these dogs running around with their people. um, I've not been there when it was going on. I've seen pictures and it just looks like a tremendous amount of fun. Ooh, that's that indigo. Just trying to keep it on the white spaces and not obliterate all that beautiful gamboge and what do we use? Prussian blue. Okay. I need to write that down because I'm going to look at that later and go, now what colors was I? Because that is absolutely a stunning green. I want to use that again. Just put it on there. Yeah, dachshund races, and they're on the beach, and there's like stuff to bark at and chase, and uh, I I've heard stories from dachshund owners that just went and just had a fantastic time, and um, the dogs had a great time, and they say, Portland, Oregon is known for being weird, but I think, don't tell. A lot of the state has got a fairly high level of weird. I think it's a charming level of weird, but yeah, a lot of weird here. Delightful amount. Man, I love this indigo. I think it's just it looks like denim, and denim is one of my like we'll never not have things made out of denim, right? It's just such a good blue. And I love a pair of denim jeans, right? Because it's like buying 50 pairs of pants in one, right? It's got that dark blue when you first wear it before that first wash. And I know it's gonna turn the back of my knees blue. I don't care. I'll still wear them the first time. I won't wash them first. I'm that girl. Because I love that dark blue color. And then you wash them and they're a little bit different. And yeah. Could you not do that to my watercolor pad? Thank you. Oh. My cat is helping me weather the corners of the watercolor block, and she already got to one and chewed the corners, so helping not helping. You're a rascal. think I want to throw a little rose madder on these, and then we are going to call it a night. Indeed, it is. That's true. Technically, chocolate quilts. It's morning. Good to see you. Buddy, no thank you. Hmm. All right, come here. All right. Hang on. You get a little bit of kitty cam. That's the source. Hi. I don't. I'm. Yes. I'm sure they would probably rather look at your face. But I need you to go down here. All right. She's trying to con me out of a fifth meal. She's she's diabetic, my cat, so I have to feed her 4 times a day these little meals, and we get to the overnight and she thinks she can get three hours past her last meal and con me out of a fifth one. About every third or fourth day she tries this, and I don't know if you guys have ever tried to reason with a cat, but she doesn't have thumbs, so I win, but it's a it's a prolonged war of wills about whether or not she can wear me down and talk me out of one more little snacky. It's interesting. I think that rose madder is very similar to the permanent rose. In fact, I'm so curious about that. I think I will pull out a piece of paper and we'll have a little side by side. Hi, Maya. Oh, she'll sneak back around and I'll get her for you again, Goldie. How are you doing, Maya? It's good to see you. We're comparing the Gansai Tambi Rose Madder with the Winsor Newton Permanent Rose. That's very, very close. There's a very slight visible difference, but I think to most people they would think there was no visible difference there. It'll be interesting to take a look at it in sunlight and see what's going on. Yeah, the Gansai Tambi, that is I love that about them. It's very inviting, I think. The how easily they wet. Like it just takes very little and it's just a pool of paint. Whereas compared to watercolors, a lot of them you've got to wet it and you have to wait sometimes, as much as 5 minutes on some colors. And the binders in the Gansai Tambi are different than Western watercolors, so they wet very easily. Just switch those around because I know the chat will be running over the top of that one. Well, Maya, do you have a little bit of time to hang out? I wasn't sure how. Whether I haven't been able to get on, carve out any time and get a, any live streams going very much this week, so we were kind of due for a longer one, and yeah, I got the paint out and just. Yeah. Yeah, I swatched those out and I was, the differences are subtle. And I had one of my alizarin crimson was rose colored and one of them really had this brownish cast to them. Let's see, sneak these under here without knocking over my water. But yeah, yeah, so the alizarin crimson, I've got Grumbacher and I've got Cotman and Carmine in one brand. Like it looked a lot like very blue. And just even for fun, I swatched the red that was in the school set, and it's not bad really for being just a school watercolor. But then looking at the Winsor and Newton alizarin crimson, it's almost got a burgundy cast to it. The colors out of the Gansai Tambi they're running up here with the numbers. So there's Rose Madder Deep, Rose Madder, and Carmine. And there's quite a bit of difference between Rose Madder Deep, and then it's right next to Permanent Rose, which I didn't get a lot of pigment in that wash. And then here's a really vintage paint from the 1950s, Shiva's Permasol Pink. I couldn't even find out any information about the pigment in Permasol, but it looks more carnation pink than rose. Yeah, so for what that's worth, there's that. Yeah, and the difference between brands, and consistently, I inherited quite a few Cotman watercolors, and Winsor Newton is a very reputable brand, but there's a dullness to them across the line that I was a little bit surprised by. Yeah, Goldie, I'm with you there. Goldie says, yeah, so that alizarin crimson almost does look like an Indian red. I agree. I don't think you were here. I broke out the Indian red and I used it here with cobalt green and malachite. I love the professionals. The Cotmans are dull. That's what I think. I would never, like, I inherited a whole whack of them, but I would probably never, like, take money out of my pocket and buy a tube of Cotman. Um, I would rather, like, save up until I have money to buy the more expensive grade. And I love Winsor red and Winsor blue. Those colors are, um, I just am delighted by them. Yeah. Didn't it turn out? It turned out fun. So this was my pick three, and then this one still is going to get some of the indigo. And I think I'm going to lay that right on top of the red because I'm digging what's going on with that green so much. Gail was in here earlier, and she chose rose madder, lemon yellow, and ultramarine light, which I thought was absolutely delicious together. And then Goldie got us to Gamboge, Prussian blue, and permanent rose. Yeah. Yeah, so I think I'd better label this before I forget which one was which. Learning as I go. I know, gorgeous, gorgeous colors. And I was kind of hoping we might see Dan K come skipping through here. It is a work week, though. It's a work night, so I don't know. I'm kind of at a funny hour for him, but he had some choices in the lineup too. So yeah, you guys. I've got little squares of beautiful colors. Just they're drying on every surface within my arm's reach right now. Yeah, I've been modding over at Nance Drew's and her fireside chats, and they run quite late. Um, but we got folks that have some important dates and stuff coming up, so. And it's very good company. I recommend those if you guys haven't had a chance, or if you're just looking for something that's calm and peaceful with people being kind to one another in the chat. Nance Drew is. Boy, it almost is a bubblegum pink. Boy, we're in the pinks today. So, I have I'm one of those people, I think if the day was naturally 26 hours long, I would be happier. I'm just, 24 hours is just like, it always feels like I need an extra couple of hours to sleep. And so my sleep schedule kind of I let it free range. And right now I am up late for me this week, but it had rolled around, so I was going to bed about 9 p.m., which is extremely early for me. But then I was waking up at 4 in the morning, so I managed to sleep in till an hour past cat feeding time this morning. Boy, I heard about it. So this shadow green is one of the colors that uh, that one of you guys had chosen, and I think it's a really cool color. Hi, hello, Sophia. Nice to see you. How are you? Well, and I you guys know I have a habit of hanging out with Chow Yun Smut in the evenings, and a couple of other places that are good for lurking and chatting, and so I do like this spot. I know when those chats let out, I'm sometimes feeling like, Tori Magoo is wrapping up, and I'm like, well, I've just got a hankering to talk to people, and I've thought a number of times that I just wish there was a place where we could go and chat and hang out and, the after party. So I am fascinated by this color. It is complex and beautiful. Okay, this green is driving you crazy? It is called shadow green, and it's it's out of the collection of Art Nouveau colors. It looks very Art Deco to me. I'm gonna spray it and we're gonna watch it really just. Holy! Did you see that? It just like jumped out of the little divots in the paper and is doing some wild stuff. Um. Well, see, my first thought is for rocks and pebbles. Because that's the phase. Yeah, did you guys see my community post with the last one that I finished? Um, yeah, it's like dark nephrite. Not like jade, but like the some of the Egyptian pharaohs were carved out of nephrite, which is this dark green, almost glassy. Beautiful stone. Yeah. Yes, rocks. Okay, so this is my finished painting. I don't know. I know a couple of you were in here when I was. I started with the gray circles because I was just playing with a granulating black to see what it would do with different amounts of water and just playing around with it. And then I added in these just garishly orange stones, and it just looked like elephants eating sun-kissed oranges to me. It was okay. I lived with it for a couple of days, and then, as I do, I just let things sit until my mind comes back and tells me. I'll walk and I'll look at it and I'll just know. I'll have an idea of what I needed to do. So I gave it a wash, the areas in between, with ultramarine blue, and then came back and did a second wash with a sap green. Used a Copic marker, a cool gray, to draw in the pebble shapes. And then I decided I wanted it to look like it was full of water, like you were looking at a water feature. Sometimes you go into a big building, and in the foyer or the entryway, there might be a water feature that's just calm and still, not a fountain. So I just did a wash and put a line around the big gray rocks. I think if I do another version of this, I might add a few little goldfish or something. But I'm pretty pleased with it. It's much more realistic. I've been working in more of a cartoon style, but I think I'm pretty pleased with it. So yeah, I don't always just trace circles on paper. Sometimes I'm working on paintings. Don't tell anybody. Wow, okay. Just came back to look at this and it just ran to the edges, didn't it? Interesting. Okay. So, yeah, goldfish. Or what if instead of all of them being stones, what if one of them was the back of a turtle? Like, that'd be kind of cool. Just sneak a turtle in there. I do like things that are whimsical. I like things that are very peaceful, and I like things that are whimsical. So, yeah, I might revisit that. You guys may have noticed I like to work. I like to work a theme. Just work it and work it. And I think it takes a while to get to something that's really a fully realized idea. Like the first times I sketch something, I'm usually, generally kind of pleased with my work. I'm not too hard on myself about things that way. But there's a little twist or there's a little idea, there's a little area that I see and I want to explore it. And once you get a good 10 or 15 or more paintings into it, there's this point where the quality of the work makes this exponential increase in quality. So I'm willing to do a lot of sketches and a lot of cartoons to get to that really exquisite expression. I was thinking that too. Could that be turtle green? Maybe that's our green. Yeah, because there are some turtles and they have a little bit of yellow on them that I might be able to sneak in this Gamboge. I think we might be on to something. So chocolate quilts, what are you up to? The secret is safe with us and the tubes. Yeah. I would say the tubes never notice, but you guys, sometimes I am absolutely shocked by the number of views. Sometimes these things get, it's crazy, it's mind blowing. Yeah, that's the first time I swatched this green, but I haven't painted with it, so this is my first time seeing it on paper, and um, it's not a bright grass green, but it's got something going on there, some quality to it. Maybe one of these days I'll get one of these colors out and actually go, oh, I don't like it. Hasn't happened yet, but I think it's theoretically possible. Alright, so guys, this is the deep turquoise. This was one of the colors that was suggested by Dan K. And I will say that it is one of my favorites out of the set. Because I love turquoise. It just makes me happy. Yeah, I think I could sneak like this, like the turtle to just be kind of like you didn't see it at first glance, and then you look a little closer and go, oh, wait, there's a turtle. Just like, I don't know if you've ever been walking past a pond and like you thought it was just a rock, and all of a sudden it goes doo 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 and splash into the water. I was in San Francisco a couple of years ago at the Palace of Fine Arts, which has this beautiful garden around it with a pond, and there were egrets and turtles. And when we first walked up to the pond, and I looked, and I didn't even notice the turtles until one just bailed off the log, and then they all just kind of jumped off into the water. And it was just, it kind of surprised and delighted me. There's so many beautiful things to see down there. Yeah. Oh, hot chocolate mixed with coffee is one of my favorite things too. That's a make the coffee and then just put a couple scoops of the like buy the big canister of the hot chocolate, and no creamer, fine. Just I like it. We'll have to use the hot chocolate. Works pretty good for that. So Maya's a little bit north. A little bit north. Turtles, I think, like places that are a bit more temperate. Oh boy. All right. I'm not loving that, so I'm gonna make it. Yeah, but like, well, of course, if you can get half and half, but what if it's the end of the month and you're like, oh, I'm waiting for my paycheck. There's nothing. And I have never been a black coffee drinker. I really think I want to put that green over this pink. That's what I'm going to do. And if I can sneak a little cadmium yellow in there, we will have, I think we will have hit everybody's suggestion. I think I will mix it up. I'll put a little bit more guidance on the color choices for round 3. So that we get a light, a dark, and a medium. And then I think I'll also want to move us on to some new colors, so that, because we were pretty close. This rose madder was very close to the pink that we used in the our original pick 3, just for a reminder. This was the original pick 3, and it was a turquoise, a purple, and a pink. And that pink played out really, it was one of the neo colors, but I think in hue it was really close to rose madder. And then with the certainly with the turquoise, we didn't move very far away from the turquoise that was there. Yellow is certainly a jolt into this colorway, but I think I was anticipating that we would take a big step away from the first thing, and it actually, when I saw the colors, I thought, oh wait, that's really close. We like what we like, which is good. No bad colors. That's my thesis, is that we're not going to have bad colors in the mix. Well, that's really interesting. There's sort of a complex interplay in those two colors. So this green is very blue, so it should play pretty well with uh, the permanent rose is got a lot of blue in it as well. So I thought they would get along pretty well. And we'll add some touches of cadmium yellow to that. It snowed. Maya says it snowed yesterday. In September. Do you usually start getting snow in September? Or does it... Wow. And did it stick? Did it just come and kind of give you a hard time and then go away? Or is it like, I'm snow, I'm here. Ha ha. Can't stop, won't stop. Maya hails from Norway. So... Goodness sakes. Snow already. I won't tell you that it was 75 degrees and I was doing a little bit of yard work yesterday. That is wild. A little bit a little bit north. Just a tad bit north. She's so far north she could be working for Santa Claus. Was that better? Alrighty. Make a little room. Let's see. Oh. It almost looks like a granulating color the way it dries. It's really cool. These aren't these gandai tambi. There's not. I don't think there's a one in the bunch that's actually a granulating color because they're a gouache formula and they're just the pigment in them is very finely ground. So, but because I put the water, it spread it out and kind of got us in the neighborhood. I like it. So, Sophia, you're in Germany? Question mark, right? Yeah, let's see. Oregon, I'm in Oregon, and I actually lived pretty close to the 45th parallel runs through Oregon, so we're halfway between the equator and the North Pole. And I think we can start putting snow tires on November 1st here. So this was Gail Byron's choice. This is Gamboge, Rose Madder, and then Ultramarine Pale. Ooh, almost looks a little... I want to say a little bit gray over those guys. Northern Germany, mid-mountain, and mid-Germany before. So the summer that I was in school in Europe, one of the weekends I got on the I had a rail pass, and I took the train and I went to Berlin, and it was in 1991, so just a few months after the wall had come down, and so I was able to go into what was formerly East Berlin, and I think we had 2 weeks of classes in Austria. So it was, but it didn't. Oh, and I went to Cologne. I went to Cologne a couple of times. There was at the time. I hope it's still there. There was a sausage vendor outside the train station in Cologne, and one of the late weekends in the program, I had a little bit of time, and I just ran down to the train station to see where I could go, and there was a train that was leaving from Vienna to Cologne, and I just said, I have to have another one of those sausages. They were so delicious. I took the train to Cologne, got out. I think I might have taken a few pictures of the cathedral because it's right there, and then got a sausage and just had enough time to run and catch the train to go back to Vienna. Just went there just to grab a delicious. I do like my snacks, but Cologne was absolutely beautiful. I did get to spend a weekend, kind of a long weekend there, and um, I found everywhere that I visited was just beautifully kept, and people were very nice, and I felt like we were treated very fairly everywhere we went. Unlike some other countries where everywhere we went, every time we turned around, we were getting ripped off. France. Got off the train in Amiens, France, left the train station, went around the corner, and got mugged by a group of like 5 guys, kind of looked like they might be sailors working on boats, kind of rough. And almost like knocked us over, and we were just arriving, so we had all of our school books and stuff in our packs, and just probably looked like we could easily be tipped over, and um, so yeah, spent the first night in France running away from muggers. Oh my god. So Chocolate Quilt says when you stand on the 45th parallel, the halfway point between the equator and the North Pole, the ground doesn't vibrate and compasses don't go totally haywire. Um, I have a relative who she's just one of those people with kind of a personal magnetic field. And when you put a compass in her hand, it doesn't like spin super fast, but it just doesn't know what the heck way is north in her hand. It's crazy. But boy, it's I grew up in Oregon, and I think like I've been here most of my life, and I don't think I've ever actually stood on the 45th parallel. I've just driven past the sign and said, "Woo, 45th parallel." Yeah, she's hell on watches too. She can't. Uh, yeah, a watch. If you get, she's tried to wear watches throughout her life, and they'll last for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then the watch just. She just has a. She just has a lot of natural magnetic energy. I don't know, maybe she was an electric eel or something in a previous life. And she doesn't have like I could see if you had like surgical stainless in your wrist or something, but she doesn't have any surgeries or any kind of surgical implants to explain it. She just kind of has a different nervous system. Boy, you just never know what kind of weird stories you're gonna get from me when you come in here too. I got a cousin. Yeah, she's been that way all of her life, and she's apparently it's just there are some people. I told her on my other side of my family, my grandfather was. Now, see, I don't really go in for the paranormal kind of stuff. It's just not my bag. I'm like, I think about space aliens, and I'm one of those people who's like, logically, there's probably intelligent life, but I'm not looking for UFOs. Um, but my grandfather was known to be a water witch, that he could do what's called witching water, and he could take a forked. The idea is that a person who can witch water will take a forked stick and they walk around, and then they're holding the stick by each end of it, a stick that's kind of shaped like a chicken's wishbone, right? A forked stick. And that when they come to a place that's a good place to dig a well, that the stick will flip over and do some stuff, and which I think is hooey until I saw my grandfather do it. We had some property in central Oregon in the high desert where there's not water. There's really just not water. But there is wildlife around, so we knew that there must be some water source somewhere. And we went camping up on this 50-acre parcel, and my grandfather took a stick. He'd brought a willow stick with him from the valley, because he said that was the kind of wood that would help him find water. And he walked all over Hell's Half Acre with a stick in his hand. And I'll be darned if at one point the stick didn't just like, he had it in his hands and it just like flipped and turned back towards him. And he said, okay, here we dig. We didn't get 2 feet down before water started to trickle up in this desert area. And so we dug down a little bit and there was a spring. So after that, we used to camp on this land. It was just way out, very near something called the John Day fossil beds. And there's no running water, no creeks. You look at a map, there's there's just nothing. And so I guess Grandpa could witch water. It's just crazy. Maya. I'm not going to read that one out loud. Okay. Sophia says the city she was born in sent you one during building. What did they send you? That you probably typed that 5 minutes ago and I've forgotten. Yeah. Wait. What do I do? What do I do with these guys? Uh, I'll probably put another 2 or 3 layers on them, and then we'll use them for basis for these the good old pebble drawings. I think that's yeah. Sometimes I'll do them a little bit differently if I'm going to do flowers, but yeah, water seeker. Oh, with the branch. Huh. So if I hadn't seen him do it, and just like I know that, like, I was a teenager when he did it, but I was looking around thinking there's no way there's water here. And who knows whether he just could figure it out by where the trees were more the juniper trees were more concentrated, or there was a bit of a, I don't know what it's called really, not a valley, but just a little space between hills where the the land kind of went down in a little depression, and he could just recognize that was a good spot to dig, and he was just playing with us. I don't know. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Well, alrighty, guys, we are coming up on on a 2-hour stream here. Okay, we'll see if I can find a blank. We might have time for a pebble drawing if you guys are interested. Yep, I got a blank. I do like to finish with one of just a little sketch. Alrighty. I can't fault you there, chocolate quilts. There's nothing as luxurious as a morning nap. I usually start these and fight them for the first 5 minutes before I remember it's paper, and I can just tell it to behave with a little bit of persuasion. So Sophia, did the water seeker, did they find water? They must have. Well, that's very cool. He did. Wow. Well, maybe I should stop laughing at my grandpa, huh? What's curious to me is, how does one figure out that one is able to do that in the first place? I mean, was he running around with a forked stick and something happened and he went, well, I wonder what that means? Or someone said him, someone must have surely just said, we gotta figure out if you can find water. Here's a stick. I know, there was a well in the orchard. My grandfather he was actually born on the farm and then inherited it, and well, here's a trip. Actually, Maya, I know you know who Liz Gale is, right? You do too, Sophia. So you guys know she fell and broke her arm, and she was at a park riding a scooter when she broke her arm. And that park is it's a big park, but part of it is my family's farm. My family's farm, after it sold, a little section of it was cut off or sectioned off, and the person who bought the farm after my grandfather died kept a little corner of it and put a house on it, and the rest of the farm was donated to the city and became part of the park where Liz Gail was scootering and had an unfortunate scooter accident, and I about fell off my chair when she said she was over at the park. I was like, God, I hope she wasn't on Grandpa's lower 40. Isn't that a very small world? Anyway, the park is a beautiful place, and I just kind of, after it first sold, myself and my cousins were all just too young to buy it, and my mom and her siblings were just they were not interested in being farmers. They had been raised on a farm. They knew it was hard work, and none of them. They all just went, "No, we're done with it." And then the kids, the next generation, we were just like, "Mom, Dad, buy the farm. We love the farm." And our respective parents were like, "You guys don't know. We're doing you a favor." And for a long time, I was kind of heartbroken about it because I mean, you grow up around farm. I felt very deeply connected to it, and it was very sad to me that we didn't keep it as a family enterprise. But our parents knew that it would have taken all of them working together, and they knew that they didn't have the temperament to work together to do it. And the cousins were, I was the oldest, and I was still in high school, so I was really too young to take on a farm. But now it's part of this beautiful park, and I have access to it, and I don't have to go pick cherries. um, like I did when we were still farming. And cherry picking itself isn't really it's not bad. You know it's up a ladder, and it's beautiful, and the fruit comes off. It doesn't leave you sticky or. Um, I also, as a kid, I picked strawberries, and I'll tell you that's kind of brutal work because you're bent over. But picking cherries isn't too bad. The problem is that you have to pick all of the cherries in a very fast amount of time. So it's not restful. It's go, 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 go. And just hope that we don't get rain. Because if you get rain when the cherries are ripe, they split. So, I mean, our parents were right. It's hard work. And these days, I mean, I feel pretty fortunate that I can actually still walk on this land that was in my family it was a century farm. Even when my grandfather was farming it, it was already a century farm when I was a kid. Meaning, a century farm in America is one that has been around for 100 years. And so my great grandfather had. I know my grandfather was actually born on the farm, and I think my great grandfather was as well. Alrighty, chocolate quilts. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming in. Yeah. I just think now, my gosh, if we had that in Oregon with the change, I just wonder what all we'd be growing. I'm guessing not cherries. Might be growing a little of the green plant. And maybe that farm would finally make a little money. So Maya, what do you have going on today? And I start cracking away at those studies for those illustrations. Boy, I'm enjoying how these colors are coming together with this one. Yeah, are you making any progress with that? As I know it's really kind of troubling for whatever reason. I used to do commissions. And there's something really different when you're working to somebody else's specifications that can really be like a parking brake, right, to your creativity. And of course with the flower shop, that's another part of agriculture in Oregon, so the flower shop, we didn't get too far away from our farm roots when we became florists. Because where I live, a florist also has to have a nurseryman's license, and you're dealing with agricultural products there. But most of the bouquets that you make are not they don't come from your own ideas. They come from somebody saying, I want a bouquet made of these flowers and these colors. And the florist goes into the cooler and gets those flowers and makes that bouquet. Most of the time, you don't have a ton of freedom to just make whatever your imagination would have you make. Now, if you were the owner or the manager or the best designer in the shop, you were making bouquets that were your designs, and they would go in the cooler, and then people would come in and pick one of those out. But most florists, they get a piece of paper that tells them what they have to do. And it's just kind of restrictive if you don't get to make those choices. Sometimes it can be, I think. But I found with making flower bouquets, most of the time people would they would also want something that was beautiful. And sometimes you'd have somebody who would come in and say, I want something made in the school colors. And the school colors are maybe red and black. So you're doing a red bouquet with a black ribbon on it, and kind of hard to make that look super pretty. Oh, good. Maya says she's making a little progress. Sophia, me too. Like as a florist, I'm so over roses. My my favorite flower. It's interesting. I always when encounter florists, I like to ask them what their favorite flower is. And if you turn me loose to go just get a bunch of flowers, like when you go to the wholesaler, you buy flowers by the bunch, and um, if they're roses, they come in 12, 24, 48. But carnations come in a bunch of 25. And carnations, if you keep the water level up and you cut a couple inches off the bottom of them, carnations will go 4 or 5 weeks. And my favorite thing is somebody just said you can go into the wholesalers and get one bunch of any kind of flower. I would I would just every time get a bunch of white carnations because the smell, the fragrance of white carnations is just a little bit peppery and spicy, and it's not too overpowering, and it doesn't change and get fetid as the flowers get to the end of their life. It stays a really lovely fragrance, and they just last forever. Uh, yeah, roses are. Uh, they come in, and you've got to strip the lower leaves, and you've got to take some of the thorns off, and you can't handle roses without getting some. And when the thorns are on these roses that have been cut from the field and they've been sitting in a cooler for a while, the tips of the thorns will break off in your finger, and they're just kind of miserable. And they smell like when they get to the end of their life, they smell like old ladies. There's this, like that overblown rose fragrance. I don't know. I would I would choose a lot of things before I ever chose a bunch of roses to take home and put in a vase. Well, the singing kitty is back. Hi, buddy. It's not true. You had all of your cat food for today. She is just telling me lies. She says she's quite certain that she needs more cat food today. You guys know I'll always find, oh, there's one more pebble. There's one more little outline. I like that one pretty well. What do you guys think? Okay. Well, we've got a lot of things that are kind of in progress. Hi. Let me just finish, and then I will give you all the snuggles. All of them. Just for you. I'm negotiating with the cat. So, here was here's the pick three colors that Gail Byron chose. I like those. I did a few along the way just to soak up the extra paint. Look at that one when it's all dried down. That's that shadow green. Oh, I think we're going to have to do some... I think we're going to have to paint some rocks with that. That's pretty cool. And here it is over some rose madder. It does some cool things. I love me a funky color. This green is mixed from Prussian blue and Gamboge yellow. And then I threw there was a little bit of indigo on the palette, so I threw that over the top. Yeah. Here's the first round with Gail's choices again. Lemon yellow, rose madder, and ultramarine pale. It's very cheery, that combo. Yeah, this is again the Gamboge yellow. This is Permanent Rose, and here's our Prussian blue. Prussian blue is just a little bit more turquoise than the indigo. Yeah. Yeah. And then my choices for the evening, I didn't get to the indigo layer on this, but we had malachite, that's the lighter green, cobalt green, and then Indian red over the top. Yeah, I think my impression of this is I wanted more translucency in the Indian red, but that was a fairly watered down version. So we were discussing earlier whether the Japanese Gansai tambi gouache had good coverage, and we see the Indian red over that green, and it's pretty full coverage. So I think that's yeah. I think we got through quite a bit of paper tonight. So yeah, if you folks would do me a favor and hit that like button if you haven't already. There's more likes than there are you in here, so I'm guessing you guys are likers already. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you coming in and chatting. We're gonna wrap it up here. We blew right past our 2 hours, so I want to thank you. It was lovely to chat, and I'm just thinking of chocolate quilts. I hope that she has taken her 10 minutes to do a little watercolor this morning. I hope that everybody has a chance today to make a little time for art in your life and to take good care. We've made it through September. So I think September is it's just a tough month to get through, but we've made it to October, and fall is here, and good days ahead. So thank you everybody for coming in. I appreciate you. Have a good one, and we'll see you on the next live. Bye now. Good night, Sophia. Thank you. Good night, Maya. Bye.